2, 1.
It is 4 o'clock. Now is the time set for the meeting of the Board of Directors of the Arizona State Schools for the Deaf and the Blind. As a preliminary note, we again are proceeding under ARS 38295B, which allows board members whose terms have expired, but for whom the governor is not appointed or reappointed to their seats, will allow those board members to continue their service in the board. First item on the agenda is item 1.01, call to order.
Okay. Lynn Davison,
Here.
Mike Manley,
Here.
Linda Bove,
Here.
Mike Gordon, Shelley Herbold, Dean Howard,
Here.
Suke Kneifel is present, David Nigro, and
Present.
Mark Sims.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to item 1.02, call to the public. Have there been any items submitted?
No.
No? Okay, seeing none, we will move on. Item 1.03, information item, executive team reports.
Yes, this is Superintendent Reichman. You have the executive team reports in your board docs. If you have questions, now is the time to ask.
Is Paul Creasy here today? Mr. Creasy, I just had one question. You'd mentioned the fiber replacement that's going to have to happen in the next few years. Is that's for our intra-agency network? I mean, in other words, fiber that's run on the campus, or is that fiber that connects us to other state facilities?
Thank you, Board President. To answer your question, that fiber replacement is for both our site-based campuses, and currently that's just for both campuses, in Tucson and Phoenix.
Okay, so the work would just be done on the campus.
That's
doesn't
correct.
It doesn't affect our connections
No.
to the outside internet or to other state agencies.
No, not at all.
Okay, thank you. That was all I had.
Thank you.
This is Linda. I have a question. Thank you, David. Are the two campuses connected to each other at all, or are they handled separately?
Both campuses are connected to the state's infrastructure, so they basically connect to Phoenix. That's correct.
Okay, so there's oversight under one server for both campuses?
It's not one server. It is the data itself is connected by routers, connecting us to the internet. We're using the Google Cloud.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry for this. Could I get some tech support to make my machine talk to board docs?
Okay. I see that's forthcoming. Does anyone have any of the board members have any other questions on item 1.03? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to item 1.04, information item, Assistant Superintendent Report.
Good afternoon, President Nigro and board members. You have received the directors and principals information since January, but I have a few items of note that I'd like to share with you all. Camp LEAP this year will be from June 7th through the 19th. We already have 15 students enrolled in Camp LEAP with a capacity of 70 spots for campers. So if you know of some students that would benefit from the opportunity, please get with Jennifer Hensley soon to ensure that your student has a spot. An update on Phase 1 of our cooperative redesign. Michelle Lucci has met with staff in Yuma at the Southwest Regional Cooperative last month. She will be available to meet with the North Central Region staff on April 6th in Sedona. Our administrative assistants that will be melding the three co-ops and working together for NCR, SWR, and EHR have met twice already, and they are developing their plan for duty assignments. Some of these changes are beginning in as early as April, and most of the changes will be occurring starting July 1. We're continuing our work with the Department of Ed, and we received an email that talks to the home districts, letting them know that some of the stuff that we used to record is now going to be going back to home districts. We have two very good people that are meeting with ADE on many of these topics, and I just wanted to let you know that those talks are going along quite well. An update on our PDSD principal search. The posting for the position closed on February 28th. We have 14 candidates that are currently being screened by a team using a rubric, and we should have that completed this week. Next week, we will be taking the candidates that move forward for actual interviews, and they will be invited. And interviews are slated for the week of March 16th through the 20th. The staff of PDSD was invited to provide input on the leadership qualities and the skills that they would like to see in their new leader. 70% of the staff participated in giving their input. Staff was asked what leadership qualities and skills they would like to see in their new leader. They were asked what successes and accomplishments do they want to share with this new leader as a campus, what challenges that they thought their new leader should know about, and finally they were allowed to give any comments or ideas that they wanted to share with the new leadership. The candidates that are screened through the rubric and invited will have a writing portion when they come to interview here at PDSD. They will have a tour of the campus, and they will have an interview with a panel. The goal of the panel is to give the assistant superintendent, myself, Superintendent Reichman, and our board representative one or two candidates to be interviewed in another round of interviews. And hopefully we will be able to report good news at our next meeting. Braille Challenge occurred on February 18th, and we had families participate from far north, from Page all the way down to Yuma. 40 participants participated in our Braille Challenge this year. Family night was held at Dave & Buster's, where families got to meet and greet and connect with each other. A very familiar name to you, Mr. Joey Parra was the overall winner of the Arizona Regional Competition. While the students were doing their Braille Challenge, there were workshops set up for parents to learn and grow along with their children. And remembering that Braille Challenge, the goal is to celebrate Braille literacy. And my final little tidbit, I would like to formally introduce to the board Mr. Jay Johnson, who was unanimously selected by the interview panel to be recommended to the Superintendent Reichman and myself to serve our agency as the statewide itinerant director. You received his bio in your board packet. If you have a chance to look it over, that would be fantastic. We look forward to having Jay begin with us on April 6th. And what Jay brings to our agency is a wealth of knowledge in recruitment, retention, post-school outcomes for our students, special education, monitoring and support, and educational leadership. We look forward to his collaborative and data-driven decision-making as he continues to jump in and carry forward Phase 1 of our co-op redesign, but also moving into Phase 2, focusing on quality assurances, recruitment of teachers, and developing our one statewide itinerant program. Thank you. And he's here today, so if you guys want me to introduce at any time, just let me know. And he'll be on board officially April 6th.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the board? No. Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to item 1.05, information discussion item, superintendent's report. Superintendent Reichman.
Yeah. Good afternoon, President Nigro, members of the Board of Directors, Assistant Superintendent Rec, and those of you here at the ASDB community. Welcome to our March 5th, 2020 board meeting. I'm happy to see you all here. So I'm going to start my superintendent's report with a story. This story starts in long time ago in India. There was a sage. Notice I signed teacher, but the word is sage. There was a teacher who was teaching his class, his students, the art of archery. And one day he decided he wanted to test their skills in archery. So he took his class into the forest. And they came to a tree where the sage had previously placed on a branch a wooden bird. So there was a wooden bird sitting on the branch. So the sage looked at the first student and told the student, I want you to draw your bow and arrow and hit the eye of the bird, that bird. But before you do that, tell me what you see. And the first student says, well, I see the sky. I see the forest. I see the tree. I see the branches of the tree. I see the leaves. And I see the bird. The sage went, why don't you just hold for a minute? And then he asked the second student, I want you to draw your bow and arrow and hit the eye of the bird. But before you do that, please tell me what you see. The second student says, I see the eye of the bird. And the sage says, go ahead and draw your bow and arrow. And so the student drew it and hit the eye of the bird. So this little story is about focus. It's about having clearly defined vision, direction, and goals. Without having those clear, defined direction and goals, then we become lost. We lose our focus, and we go on different paths. How is this relevant to ASDB? Well, as we all know, ASDB has many, many distractions. We have obstacles. We have challenges. And without having that very clear focus on the eye of the bird, we're going to lose our way. So for me, what is the eye of the bird? For me as a superintendent of ASDB, my eye of the bird is two things. One is the health and well-being of our students. And the second is offering the best education and supports possible to our students. That's the eye of our bird. So when we talk about the health and well-being of our students today, obviously we're all thinking about the global pandemic of the coronavirus. And I want to let you know that ASDB leadership is taking this very seriously. We have started taking webinars, trainings. We've had contact with both the Maricopa County and the Pima County Health Department. We've even taken a webinar from the Arizona Department of Health. We have and are sending out letters to parents and their families of our students, talking about how to protect themselves and their families. This week, we even had to call a group of seniors and their parents to cancel the senior trip to France. This group had been fundraising and saving their money for 2 years. So it was a very heartbreaking decision. There were some tears over that decision. Tomorrow we have Christy Wissinger, who is the supervising nurse of ASDB, convening a small group to have a discussion about ASDB, the safety of our students and our staff. What do we need to do? So start identifying next steps and then the implementation of those steps, so that we are truly looking at doing everything we can do to make our students, our staff, as safe as possible on the Tucson campus, on the Phoenix campus, and with our itinerant staff population. So, with that happening, obviously we need to continue with providing the best education possible. And for me, in providing the best education possible, we have 5 arrows. And those 5 arrows are the 5 strategic priorities. They are communication, relationship building, early childhood achievement, development and achievement, academic achievement, student engagement, staff and leadership development, and professional growth, and resources. Those are the arrows we use to get to the eye of the bird. You all know that our schools have been in school improvement. We have the English and the math curriculum established. We are finishing up the selection of the science and life skills curriculum, and I think we'll be bringing them to you, the board, on May 7th for adoption for implementation in the fall. You've all heard about the work we're doing with the regional cooperatives. I don't need to restate that. You all know that we are working with the Arizona Department of Education to clarify roles and responsibilities and to improve the communication and the collaboration between the 2 agencies. What you may not know is that we are now in conversations with the Arizona Early Intervention Program for the same reason, to clarify roles and responsibilities and to improve on our communication and collaboration between AZIP and ASDB. We have just contracted with an outside research group that's called LaCroix and Milligan Associates. They have 2 researchers who right now are beginning to do a study of our demographics and the enrollment of our students on both campuses and the students we serve statewide. The purpose of that research and analysis is to give us some information about predicting the future enrollment of students and the students we serve statewide. With that research analysis and report that we hope to get this summer sometime, that will give us better and more information so that we can plan for our future. And the final thing I want to mention is that we are currently internally in the process of discussing and brainstorming how do we get better at attracting, recruiting, the application process, the interviewing, and the hiring and retention of highly qualified teachers. We're having serious discussions about that right now internally. You're all aware that there's a national shortage of qualified teachers, and then when you add teachers of the deaf and teachers of the visually impaired, it becomes even more acute. We see the tsunami wave coming down on us, and we're attempting to get ready for that. So those conversations are happening right now internally. And these are the reasons that I'm just truly thrilled that you, the board, will have your first work-study session on developing a strategic plan with the agency on April 16th. I hope all of you will be there, all 9 of you, not just 6 or 7 or 8, but all of you, because this is critical to ASDB, to our future, to maintaining focus, and that we can work together and move in the same direction. So, in closing, I want to say that with a clear direction and clear goals, our chances of getting to the eye of the bird is much better. And I'm happy to take questions at this time.
Seeing no questions, thank you, Superintendent Reichman. We're going to move on to the consent agenda, 2.01, approval of the consent agenda consistent with board policy to include items 3.01, 5.01, 5.02, 5.03, 6.01, 7.02, 7.05, and 7.06. Would anyone on the board like to discuss potentially moving some of those items off the consent agenda, or have any other comments before we entertain a motion?
This is Mike Manley. I just need to recuse myself from 5.01.
Understood. Mike, would you like to pull that off and we can vote on that separately?
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
So I will need a motion to pull 5.01 from the consent agenda.
Can I make a motion to pull 5.01 from the consent agenda?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, that motion has carried. If there are no other points of discussion, then we should entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as modified.
This is Mike Manley. I move that we approve the consent agenda as modified.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, the consent agenda as carried with the exception, or as modified with 5.01. We now move to 3.02, information item for student records, executive session.
Do we want to finish the consent agenda that he pulled?
That's 5.01.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll do that.
In order. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We will do that when we get to 5.01.
Okay.
But because 3.01 was just approved, we now move on to 3.02, where I will move that we go into executive session to receive legal advice from attorneys. Do I have a second for that motion?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Okay, we will enter executive session, but please read the statutory required verbiage. That's when we actually go into it. There's another section. Sorry, Letitia, do you have the statute that we need to read? It's the actual statute, like section, it's the third section.
That's what I have.
It's read 38,431.
See how it says? Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's this one.
ARS 1. This one?
Yeah.
Pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A1, the Board of Directors may vote to go into executive session which will not be open to the public for the purposes of discussion and consideration of employment matters as it relates to agenda items.
No, it's not the point. It's the, I'm sorry.
Gave me the wrong
I gave you
one.
the wrong one. It's the, it's 3.
Okay.
Yeah. So, sorry about that. That was-
Pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A3, the board may vote to go into executive session, which will not be open to the public for discussion, consultation for legal advice with the board's attorney as it relates to this item.
All right, thank you.
That's all right.
Okay. Is there someone from IT that could help Board Member Bove?
Oh, there's Frank.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, sure. Yeah, thank you. I'll call for abstention.
There you go.
And I'll tell them that when I get to it. But we have 4-1.
Finance report. I'm so glad you're back. Missed you guys. Had to keep the crowd warm.
No, it didn't.
Oh, sorry. That's a good thing.
Hey, Mike, on 501, I'll just call for abstentions. Moment. Thank you. Let's give everyone just another moment before we reconvene. Serve it. We've not served it for a while. Okay, it looks like we are back at full strength. Dean, are you on the line?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Moving on, we have 4.01, information item, finance report. Shayna Cooper.
Shayna Cooper, Executive Director of Business Services. Good afternoon, Board President Nigro, Superintendent Reichman, Assistant Superintendent Rex, members of the board, and the ASDB community. Provided to each of you is a consolidated version of the financial reports for the month end January 31, 2020. For comparative purposes, the reports also show data as of January 31, 2019. Our most recent Finance Committee meeting was held on February 21st with board members Manley, Ann Gordon, and Superintendent Reichman. The minutes of the meeting have been included with today's consent agenda items, and in summary, we reviewed and discussed the budgetary and fiscal year budget to actual comparison reports, the grant revenues and expenditures, as well as student enrollment as of February 1, 2020, and compared that to February 1, 2019. Continuing on to the actual report, as referenced on page 1, as of February 1, 2020, there were 521.7 full-time equivalents and 96 vacant positions. You've heard me mention before that we had one last vacancy within business services. I'm glad to say that we have actually filled the assistant controller position, and the staff member will begin work effective March 23rd, and she will be located on our Tucson campus. As of February 1, 2020, ASDB had 2,151 students. However, in comparison to February 1, 2019, we had a little less of about 2,079 students, so 72 less compared to last year to this year. On the bottom of page 1 and on page 2, you will see that the increase in our students when comparing both school years is within our birth to age 3 children, where we have 456 compared to 413, and preschool students of 248 compared to the 194. The regional cooperative students was 1,061 compared to the 1,081 students. Although it should be noted that there is an overall decline in the regional cooperative student enrollment, looking at the regional cooperatives individually, you will notice the increase within our Desert Valley Regional Cooperative and the decrease within the North Central Regional Cooperative. The enrollment for the other cooperatives have been pretty consistent when you compare last year to this school year. Total voucher students as of February 1, 2020 is 1,082 compared to the 1,049 last year, and fee-for-service students as of February 1, 2020 is 1,069 compared to the 1,030 students. Page 3 actually begins our financial summary, and when you compare last year to this year, our collected revenues as of January 31, 2020 is $15.8 million, which is $2.2 million higher than budget fiscal year 2019, which was $13.6 million, and that increase is due to the increase in our voucher revenues, as well as our increase in collection efforts for our reimbursements for both our federal as well as our non-federal grants. Expenditures have increased slightly by about $600,000 when you compare both budget fiscal years, mostly due to the increase in total payroll and professional and outside services, which is offset by the decrease in expenditures from equipment and the one-time operating transfer out of the $500,000 that we did last year for the Tucson gas line repairs. Pages 5 through 8 show our fiscal data, both in the visual formats and show specifically by funding source as well as by program. And at page 9 will show you the budget status report comparing our actual revenues as well as our actual expenditures. As you can see on page 9 of our budget status report, we're currently showing a budget deficit of about $327,000, which is due to the decrease in of expenditures of 31.7. So our total revenues shows 31.4, but our total expenditures show 31.7. Based on a review of the financial data thus far from July through January, there are no material concerns based on the projections that we have done. We will continue to forecast out the next quarter, which will be March through June, and there are no material concerns as I've noticed. We will also continue working with the various departments to build our fiscal year 2021 budget over the next few weeks based on the baseline report that was published in January. If there are no questions, that concludes the report based on fiscal data as of January 31.
Thank you. Do any board members have any comments? No, seeing none. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for your hard work on these matters. Moving on, we have item 5.01, intent to offer fiscal year 2021 new hire employment contract by Jay Johnson, Director of Itinerant Services.
This is Lynn. I move to approve item 5.01 to offer a contract to Jay Johnson, Director of Itinerant Services.
This is Sukay. I second that motion.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Do we have any abstentions?
I abstain. This is Mike Manley.
Thank you, and Lynn, thank you so much for your hard work on this. I know it took quite an effort, and but I'm very happy that we have our new hire.
We did one.
Moving on, we have item 7.01, information item, introduction and possible discussion of policies. Maria Murphy.
Good afternoon, Board President Nigro, members of the board, Superintendent Reichman, Dr. Rex. For the record, my name is Maria Murphy, Director of Policy and Government Relations. You have before you the red lines of policies GBEA through IHAMD. They were presented to the policy subcommittee. They were also presented for public comment. I have received no public comment at this time. Mr. Nigro and I are going to continue to refine some of the language around policy GBEA, and I have been in contact with Director Pyatt regarding GCFC. There may be some additional tweaking that needs to be done to that policy, and the changes will be reflected in the second read at the board meeting in May. And at this time, I make myself available for any questions.
Okay, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is 7.03, action item, approval of strategic plan development work session dates for 2020. Superintendent Reichman.
Yes, we want you to approve officially the 3 work-study sessions in the schedule. April 16th, May 14th, and October 1st to focus on the development of a strategic plan.
And I think in our last meeting, well, I guess a couple of things from last meeting. So, one, we're going to reduce the number of meetings but increase their length a bit. So I think our overall time is the same, but we're compressing 4 separate meetings into 3. The second point is we did conduct that kind of poll amongst the board to get availability. So I know that it's difficult to get all of us together due to our schedules, but I think that these are the dates that represent the most availability for the board. Does anyone have any other specific notes on these days?
Yeah, I want to add that when you look at those 3 dates and time, they're from 4 to 7, 3 hours, to give us a little bit more time. And that we really want to focus on the process. The first board meeting, we'll talk a little bit about the process and the product. What do you want to see done by the end of October 1st?
Okay. Thank you. In terms of calendars, I know we've all had access to this for about a week. Are there any other comments on the timing other than has already been shared via the Google Doodle? No. Okay. So I move that we adopt these dates.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I just apologize to Letitia for my failure to figure out how to make the doodle thing work? And thank you for calling our office and using the old-fashioned phone. That was great.
Thank you, Letitia. Any opposed to these dates? Okay. Hearing none, we've approved those dates. Item 7.04, discussion and possible action item, approval to reschedule November's board meeting from November 19th to December 3rd. Superintendent Reichman.
Yes, I have a potential scheduling conflict, so my request is to move the November board meeting just by 2 weeks to the first Thursday in December.
Okay. Do any of the board members present have an issue with that, moving that date?
No? No?
Okay. I move that we adopt this action item to move the November 19th meeting to December 3rd.
I second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, the motion carries. And now on to 8.01, call to the public. Letitia, do we have any comments from the public submitted? No? Okay, hearing none. 8.02, discussion item, agenda items for the next regular board meeting scheduled for May 7th at the Tucson campus. Does any board members have anything to add to the agenda when we develop it?
If something comes to mind, do I contact you, President Nigro?
Oh,
If something comes to mind?
Certainly,
later?
yeah. If it comes to mind later, certainly let me know.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. And moving on from that is 9.01, meeting adjournment.
I move to adjourn this meeting.
I
Second.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All, any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Thank you very much.
Is anybody opposed? Ever?
I don't, you know, you gotta